Thank you very much, Dan. Welcome to Movie Book Club. Today we're talking about John Wick. Welcome to the Movie Book Club, and that was Marilyn Manson's Killing Strangers from the 2014 film John Wick. I'm here today with James McAuliffe.
All right, Dave.
And I am David Sheehan, here on Z103 Online. So, James, John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick, what a great picture, Dave. I really, really enjoyed it. Your recommendation this weekend to watch it, that was a fantastic picture.
Excellent. I do appreciate you pretending that you hadn't seen it before. Just to go behind the curtain here, we're looking at this as a movie book club. So I don't know if you've ever been in a regular book club, but you speak about things in excruciating details. We're going to go in deep here.
Yeah.
We're going to deep dive on John Wick. We're going to discuss it in as many details as we can, and we're also going to tell you what the next film we're going to watch is.
Well, if you're behind the curtain as Oz himself, then I'm obviously in front of the curtain as Dorothy.
Thank you very much, Dorothy. So, John Wick came out in 2014 and is a Keanu Reeves project.
Yeah.
I think the best way to have seen this film, if you did see it, would be without any extra information, because watching it as carefully as we did, it presents information very slowly, very deliberately.
It really does, yeah.
It's such a good film. And I think it starts so slowly that they kind of did a in media res beginning, where the film technically started at the end.
Yeah, well, that's film noir.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the sense that they call it a neo-noir, because a proper noir, when we see John Wick at the very, very start bleeding profusely, and looking like he's going to die, in a proper noir he would die right there.
Yeah, I thought he was going to die in this film.
Exactly. Drop dead right in front of you. So then the whole point is that it's that, kind of the whole point of film noir is that we all die, it's just the journey. That's what you're there for. So what journey are you going to go on to get to that death? And is that death redemption, or is it damnation?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. So the first thing we see is John Wick, obviously, he crashes a car into a building.
Yes.
We don't know where it is. It looks like it's at a pier. It's very dark. He falls bleeding out of a car.
Yes.
He looks like he's going to die. And the most important thing he wants to do at this point is pull his iPhone out of his pocket and play a video.
Yeah, yeah.
What's on the video, James?
My whole brain has collapsed, Dave.
I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. It is a video of his dead wife.
Oh no, of course. It was actually what I was actually thinking was, you just said he crashes the car. Me being a car nut, you just have to mention to the listeners at home, those who are into it, it was a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1, which is a magnificent piece of material.
Is that what he had at the end of the film?
That's literally what he has.
Yeah, wow.
That's his car. But yeah, of course, it's the film of his dead wife, who is what's her name again?
Her name is
Bridget Moynahan.
Oh, Bridget Moynahan.
Yeah, Bridget Moynahan, who people might know from iRobot with Will Smith.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Like one of the bigger movies that we'll say she's in. I mean, she's in lots of stuff. She's in lots of TV movies. But yeah, it's a film of his wife who passed away. I think she passed away from some illness that we don't really know about. And then why he's looking at the picture of the wife is because John Wick's whole life was basically he wanted to have a normal life. So he's a hitman.
Yes.
Basically. So he's a hitman for Russian mafia. Then we'll say his boss gave him an impossible task, as he called it. We'll say to murder loads of his rivals and to take them all out so that he could establish his empire. So Wick completes the impossible task, and then he gets the fairy tale ending. But we see the fairy tale twist. It's more like a Brothers Grimm ending.
Yeah.
That's when we start.
Yeah. So we immediately cut then into kind of a very quick, very excellently shot silent montage of John standing at a bridge with his wife. She collapses. We see her in hospital. We see them talking to doctors. We see them shaking their heads. It's not good news.
Yeah.
And then we see him at her bedside as she dies. And we just go straight into a funeral. Like, this is over. This exposition is done silently. It's done quickly. We're giving the audience a lot of credit. Yeah. And it's over in like 15 seconds.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing you say, Dave. They really are giving the audience a lot of credit. We'll say, getting back to the way we established this film being a film noir. So in a film noir, you always have a femme fatale. And so that we'll say the protagonist always has someone. The femme fatale, usually, it is a woman in all black and white movies. But it can be anything. It can be a belief system. It can be a partner in crime. But this is the person who's going to bring about your downfall. So in a strange way, John Wick achieving his peace is the beginning of his downfall.
Right.
Because he could never survive it anyway.
Yeah.
So he was always going to lose. He had bit of happiness, but he was always going to lose. It's in the cards.
Yeah, very good. And then we go to the funeral scene, which is it's rainy. There's just lots of black umbrellas, lots of people dressed in black.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, he's buried his wife now. She's gone. We're past the montage, and you see a man cloaked in shadow.
Yeah.
And when this man in shadow is revealed, it's Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is probably the first subversion of this film, because you don't cast Willem Dafoe in anything unless he's going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I know what you mean, exactly. Well, yeah, he has been the bad guy in lots of things, but Willem Dafoe is also a unique character actor that brings out these very strange characters. Wild at Heart, he played Bobby Peru.
I haven't seen that one.
Jump all over you like a jackrabbit. Is good, and that was a very strange character in a submarine under the sea. What's his name's with Bill Murray?
Periscope Down?
Yeah, he played another very strange, unique character. Yes, he does play a lot of bad guys, but actually, one thing that it really shows you, like you're bringing attention to Willem Dafoe, Dave, is he has a small supporting role, but that'll show you how tight that script was.
Yeah,
that'll show you that script was moving around Hollywood a good while beforehand. And when you get a script someone really writes well for maybe 2 years and they work and it's really tight, then you get lots of people on board. Because I mean, like, not jumping ahead, but like, not only Dafoe, like Ian McShane is turning up.
Yes.
What's his name? Lester from The Wire. Alfie, well, he's the main character in it.
Yeah.
Literally, like a lot of the smaller character actors in it are big actors. You know, they just go for it.
Yeah, and then we see Willem Dafoe talking to John Wick, Keanu Reeves, and Keanu was asking him like, "Oh, what do you want? Why are you here?" And he just says, I'm just here to pay respects to a friend.
Yes.
And John Wick doesn't say anything, and Willem Dafoe just shakes his hand and says, goodbye, John.
Yeah.
And then we go, okay, there's probably something else going on here with Willem Dafoe. He was cloaked in shadow. Maybe he's going to be the bad guy. We don't know what's happening.
That's a very good point.
And then one of the big heart moments of the film is John Wick goes home and he puts his dead wife's daisy bracelet on his bedside table.
Yes.
He sets his alarm and he goes to sleep.
Yes.
And there's no colour in the picture. No. It's all just like dark blues and whites.
It is in shadow. It is, It is dull. It is cold.
Yeah, it is just showing like the emptiness of John Wick's life, how there's nothing going on there. And as far as we know, without knowing anything about John Wick, we have what I've written down here is that he appears to be a regular ass man. He is just a guy who had a wife, his wife died, and now he's sad. We don't know anything else about him.
No, we don't at that point, you're right.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe came to his funeral. We don't know anything about Willem Dafoe.
No.
And then I don't know what kind of level of super mega Amazon Prime membership his wife has, but she somehow has it set up that after her death, a beautiful beagle puppy will be delivered to his house with a message.
I think it's called suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it was perfect. And the dog is called Daisy.
Yeah, he named her Daisy, exactly like you referenced it, with her necklace.
Her Daisy bracelet.
Bracelet even, yeah.
And the message from his wife is that she knew that he wouldn't be able to go on alone without her.
Yeah.
And she specifically says that she wants him to have something to love.
Yeah.
And then she says, your car doesn't count.
Yeah.
So we know two things about John Wick. He doesn't love anyone except his wife and his car.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then his wife gets him a puppy.
Yeah.
So then he's see him start getting endeared to the puppy.
You do, yeah, Dave. Yeah, we have another slight kind of elongated montage where he's making friends with the puppy, and the puppy is becoming his companion and bringing some humanity back into his life, and giving him something to hold on to, and make his heart rise at certain points because he is so depressed. But he does. He does love his car now and his puppy.
Yeah, and we see him getting up and he's giving. I think he's not prepared for the dog. He's giving it like Special K with milk.
He is. Certainly. Which always harks back. That always happens in American movies, where you always have the guy and his dog, and he's always feeding him with something strange or giving him something wrong. It was like just a little movie I saw again recently with Marky Mark. With Marky Mark. I always call him Marky Mark. I'll tell you that.
Few people would know him as Marky Mark.
That's giving away my age. With Mark Wahlberg, called The Shooter. So he's up in the mountains with his dog, and again, like you say, he's always feeding him beer. Just give him a shot of beer. But
and then the next thing we see is that John Wick he hops in the car, dog jumps in with him, and he goes to fill the car at a gas station.
He does, yeah.
And it's at this point that he meets some Russians.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Alfie Allen then from Theon Greyjoy from Game of Thrones.
Alfie Allen
walks into the movie.
Yeah, being weirdly typecast as the son of a very powerful and famous man whose life is defined by making very poor choices.
Yes.
That will not benefit him in the end.
Certainly. And he is that classic archetypal son of the head bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, thinks he's hard, like thinks he's got respect, thinks he's got power, and he's got none of it.
Yeah.
You know, he's basically just a plastic patty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Russians try to buy John Wick's, I think you said, was it 69 Mustang?
It's a 69 Mustang Mach 1. A Mach 1 is a special type. You know,
okay.
It's not a fastback, it's not a Boss, it's not a GTO, it's a Mach 1.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really expensive car right now, obviously.
And
But
John
says
Wick,
it's immaculate.
yeah, John Wick refuses to sell them the car.
Yeah.
And one of the Russians says to him in Russian, everything's got a price.
Yeah.
And John Wick says back to him in Russian, you know, not this.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping it clean.
Yeah, which does bring them out of their comfort zone straight away with that one comment. They're thinking like, who are we dealing with? And they are again like in classic movie land parlance. That was their moment that they should realise not to go attack this man.
Yeah.
That one sentence. So he just answered me back in Russian. I mean,
we think he's a regular ass man. We're like, he's a regular man who speaks Russian. That's strange.
Yeah. I'm sitting in the audience and even I know not to go attack that guy after he says that sentence.
And then after this, John Wick goes, and we sort of get the first hint of maybe another world existing here, because there is kind of a second world in John Wick. He pulls up to an airfield, and there's just a big tattooed man in a pickup truck, sorry.
Yeah.
And John Wick just nods to him, and the guy nods back, and he opens the gate, and he lets John Wick go in and drive around this airfield.
Yeah.
So you don't usually let people drive around airfields. That's quite dangerous.
No, and again, like you said, Dave, a lot of John Wick's communication is just nod and wink, and again, that's just building us up slowly, like you said, Dave, there must be a massive amount of weight in this man's background.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of power he has must be, it has to be revealed to us at some point.
Yeah, and that's another note I made here just on the sort of general themes of John Wick, is that John tends to not answer questions. There's a lot of points in the film where someone will ask him something, and I wrote down some of the questions he was asked. What will you do? Will I be hearing from you anytime soon? Yeah. Have you thought this through?
Yeah.
All those times he doesn't answer the question.
No, he doesn't answer.
He just moves on with something else.
Absolutely, and not jumping ahead, because I like the way you're going through it, Dave, and keep going through it the way you're going through it. But it's a slightly jumping ahead for your asking questions. One of the ultimate questions is Michael Nyqvist, Vigo, the head boss, basically asks him not to go for revenge.
Yeah.
You know, and there's your ultimate not answering question.
Yeah.
Like, just on the phone, and he answers it by putting the phone down, and Vigo understands the answer.
Yeah. You know who you're dealing with if you're dealing with John Wick, and unfortunately for these young lads at the Russian lads at the gas station, they didn't know who they were dealing with.
No.
And then John Wick drives around this airfield, and another little bit of information we get is that he very nearly kills himself. He drives straight towards like the front of a construction digger in his Mustang.
Yes.
And he's screaming, and at the last second he presses on the brakes, and he stops like millimeters from this thing.
Yes.
So we don't know, is it because of the dog who's in the car with him, or has he just he's on the verge of killing himself? He doesn't know what he wants to do. And then another great moment is he goes home that night, and the dog is on the floor looking up at him, and he says, all right, come on. And the dog hops into the bed with him.
He does,
yeah. He's gonna be okay. He's not gonna kill himself. He's gonna live with this dog. This regular ass man who we don't really know anything about, he's gonna be fine. Maybe he'll get a job. Everything will be great.
Yeah, that whole sequence is like a man's Marley and me.
Yeah. And it's only probably like 7 or 8 minutes long. They get so much story in so quickly.
Yeah.
And then the next scene here, James, if you want to go into this, he wakes up because he hears a noise in his house.
Yeah, he does. Then we'll say, like, he comes out and you have all of the Russians waiting there, like you say again, Dave, in darkness. One great thing about this movie, though, is in the way it's shot, you always see whose face it is in the fights or what's happening. Because the point is, like you just mentioned slightly in passing there earlier, Dave, that everyone's wearing suits. This is a movie about men in suits.
Yes.
Everyone's dressed the same. Baddies are dressed the same, the goodies are dressed the same, everyone's dressed the same. Actually, what identifies them in a strange way is haircuts and facial hair, when you actually start looking at it throughout the movie.
Yeah,
large
very much.
bouncers with large buns. You know, Alfie Allen with his little scraggly face. you know, straight out of Game of Thrones. It's like, yeah, you didn't have a razor then, you don't have a razor now. But so they basically decide that they're taking what they want. You know, law doesn't mean anything to them. They're going to have what they want. Again, another moment. Yes, you get a feeling and a sense that John Wick is all conquering, but your first experience of him is a guy who loses the fight.
Yeah.
So his first fight, he loses badly.
He gets sucker punched, but not punched. He gets whacked across the head with a metal baseball bat, and you hear the metallic ring, and he's just like, he's paralyzed on the ground, and they hit him a couple more times.
Yeah.
And then the most heartbreaking moment of the film is that the dog comes over to try and save him.
Yeah, he does.
And the Russians kill the dog.
Yeah.
And then you just hear the Russians saying, get the keys of that Mustang. And we fade to black.
Yeah.
And then when...
Oh, like some Renaissance epic painting or sculpture, when we get that pullback shot of dead dog. When he wakes up, he's looking into the eyes of the dead dog. He's looking
into the eyes of the dead dog. And to make it even sadder, the dog was killed in another part of the apartment, but there is a blood trail from where he was like fatally wounded to John Wick. So the dog in his final moments decided to come up and die next to John.
Yeah.
So heartbreaking. One of the saddest deaths in film, like R.I.P. Daisy the dog.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Daisy was an absolute legend.
And then John gets up, he takes the collar off the dog and he puts it on the bedside table next to his wife's bracelet. So we already know how fond he was of the dog.
Oh, double Daisy.
And how much loss he feels. And there's a moment where this film turns. John gets out a brush and a bucket and he starts scrubbing up the blood.
Yeah.
But then he stops.
Yeah.
He decides to stop cleaning. And this is the turn of this film.
Yeah, certainly. I agree with you, Dave.
He's changed gears in his head and he's going in a different direction. He's not worried about cleaning up his house anymore.
No.
What's he going to do? We still technically don't know.
No, we really
don't know what he's going to do.
It's amazing. Yeah, we don't. We have absolutely no concept yet what's going on.
And then he goes to like leave his apartment, and there's his other car with a baseball bat through the window, and he decides to get a bus.
Yes.
And he goes to John Leguizamo's chop shop.
Oh, John Leguizamo. What a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love Leguizamo. It was like when we were watching that, not to be cutting aside, but just throwing in something else, Dave. Leguizamo's been in loads of great films, Son of Sam, things like that. But one of the movies I always remember John Leguizamo for, I remember seeing it in America, was Goodbye Julie Newmar, thanks for...
Oh, yes.
Tu Wong Fu.
Tu Wong Fu, yes.
Tu Wong Fu, Goodbye Julie Newmar, which is a remake of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, a famous Australian movie. And like Leguizamo is brilliant. As what you call a queen? What's the word, Dave?
A drag queen.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah. So Leguizamo is brilliant as a drag queen. Patrick Swayze, ironically, is another drag queen on Dirty Dancing, but the number one drag queen in that movie, and I'm really sorry, listeners, for going away from John Wick, who you just have to see, is Wesley Snipes.
Yeah,
Wesley Snipes as just couldn't be a drag queen. It just didn't work at all. It was hilarious. But anyway, yeah, Leguizamo, magnificent character actor.
Yeah, and
but it goes to Leguizamo exactly. He goes to Leguizamo trying to see about his car, because just before that the boys have turned up with John Wick's car.
Yeah.
With Leguizamo looking at them basically straight away, knowing it.
Yeah.
I know what this car is.
Leguizamo gives us no new information.
No information.
But he just says to them, where did you get this car?
Yeah.
And then they say, what does it matter? And he says, get out of my shop.
Exactly.
And the guys are like, you have to take this car. My dad owns you. You have to do whatever we say.
Yeah.
And he punches the kid in the face.
Exactly.
And says, get out of my shop.
And again, Dave, like you were saying with John Wick stopping cleaning up, there's another pivotal moment for that John Leguizamo character, because the whole idea is he knows the score.
Yeah.
So he knows he's in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
He knows straight away, instinctively, I'm going to have to tell John Wick the truth, of all people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big or bad the boss is, I'm punching his son in the face.
Yeah.
Because this guy has made a mistake. And even Leguizamo kind of gambles in the idea that even the boss, even if it's his son, he will understand it's John Wick.
Yeah.
It's not a normal man.
We don't know why, but the behind the thing is that John Leguizamo at that moment is more afraid of John Wick than he is of this mafia mob boss.
And it's strange, I was just thinking about it, Dave, in the sense of exactly like you were saying, it's actually quite, you're brilliant. We really don't know anything still to this point.
Yeah.
So in a way, the John Wick that existed before the wife, Daisy the dog, was a different John Wick. In a way, this new disaster that's happening in his life is a kind of an origin story for the new John Wick that's going to be created.
Yeah, there was like the primary John Wick, which we don't see. There's the wife John Wick, who I think dies at the moment where he stops cleaning, and now we're starting now with a new John Wick, and we're going to talk about my favorite moment in the film, one of the best comedic moments I think I've seen in any film, after this. So we're back here and we're talking about John Wick. James, my favorite moment of this film is when the mafia boss phones John Leguizamo's chop shop, and you can see John Leguizamo waiting by the phone. He's the only one left in the garage. He was expecting this call.
Yes.
All the lights are off but one, and he's got his little glass of brandy.
Yeah.
And he just immediately picks up the phone.
Yeah. And it's even that, that's brilliant little touch, isn't it?
Yeah.
That glass, almost like a final drink.
Yeah.
You know, he's at his own wake.
John Leguizamo knows he has no good options, and he's just going with it. And the mob boss, whose name is Vigo, says, I understand you struck my son.
Yes.
And John Leguizamo says, I did, sir. I did.
Yeah.
And Vigo goes, why did you do such a thing?
Yeah.
And then John Leguizamo pauses and said, well, sir, he stole John Wick's car.
Yeah.
and killed his dog.
Yeah, totally, Dave.
And in my favourite moment of almost any film, Viggo turns to the camera and says, "Oh."
Yeah.
And hangs up the phone.
It's so quality.
And that's the end of the conversation.
It is. And again, back to the theme that you pointed out at the very start of it, the whole idea of minimal conversation. Everything is done with a nod and a wink. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably are going to die, or you shouldn't be in this situation. If you don't know what I'm talking about without talking to me, then you don't know enough. And actually, it's a good point. And that is a great scene, Dave. And just a little tiny point of information with that scene is that he takes the call while standing on top of a building.
Yeah.
So you've got that whole idea of here is the major crime boss introduced into the film. He's on top.
He's on
at
top.
that moment in time.
Literally and figuratively on top of the world.
Exactly.
Everybody is afraid of.
Everybody's afraid of him. His empire works great. But the man that he basically employed to give him his empire, like we were talking about at the start of this piece, has now decided that he's going to take his empire. No, he's not going to take anything off him. He's going to take revenge.
Yeah. And you can see him then. He slow walks down the stairs. There's a guy next to him saying, "Oh, you got the deal. We've taken Chicago," and he's not listening.
No.
And then the son comes in, and at that moment, while the son is talking to the father about what he did, we see John Wick go down into his basement with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And
that's classic. They always dig up their old equipment. You know what I mean? They do. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
And it's interspersed. You see John Wick start smashing the floor of his own basement with a sledgehammer while Viggo is explaining to the son, whose name is Yosef, what he has done and like who this guy is, like just some guy. And it's like just some guy. And he says to him like, John Wick is a man of like singular intent and vision and determination, like something you will never understand.
No, he berates his own son in front of him.
He berates his own son while intermittently just punching him in the gut. He gives him a drink, lets him drink some drink, punches him in the gut.
He does,
and he explains to him, as you were saying, that he set John Wick.
Yeah.
John Wick was not the boogeyman. He was the man you sent to kill the boogeyman.
Exactly.
And nobody leaves a life of crime.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah, Baba Yaga. Yeah. But he set John Wick an impossible task to kill. We don't know. An undetermined, impossible amount of people.
After watching the film and the skill and technical ability of John Wick, you kind of presume that the task was extraordinary.
Yeah.
You know, that he had to kill maybe 3 or 4 crime families, knock them all out, get rid of the bodies, they're all disposed of, no one knows anything. Yeah, but John completed it.
Yeah, John completed it, and as such, he was given his freedom. Then we see John finish breaking the floor open, and it reveals just a case of guns.
Yeah.
So many guns, and lots of something that we're not really going to understand later, but lots of gold ingot coins.
Exactly, yeah. That brings it to that whole, again, that's what I suppose, Dave, that's the first little real hint that we are in an alternate universe slightly.
Yes.
You know what I mean, Dave? Going on that whole comic book, graphic novel kind of element of this, anime kind of element of this picture, that the idea that they have their own currency in their world, that they buy and sell things with these kind of bullion almost.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Lethal Weapon 2, you know, when they had the bullion in the boot of the car. Was that Lethal Weapon 1? That was 1. Yeah. Actually, it doesn't matter.
I've watched them recently, but I can't remember.
You know what
which
I'm on
one
about. Remember the bearer bonds? No, bearer bonds was actually from Die Hard. Anyway, I'm rambling.
In this moment then, Viggo decides to phone John Wick.
Yeah.
And John Wick picks up the phone, and in another great scene, John Wick doesn't say a word.
Not one sentence.
Viggo says, John, I'm sorry to hear about your wife.
Yeah.
I understand my son has done you wrong. We need to talk about we can talk about this.
Yeah.
We can be reasonable men, John. It doesn't have to come to this.
Totally, yeah.
And John waits a while and then he hangs up the phone. Yeah. And in another great comedic moment, there's an inept bodyguard working for Viggo who goes, "What did he say?"
Yeah.
And Viggo says, "Enough."
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome line.
Which was nothing. And then the very next scene is John Wick taking a shower. We see him from behind. He is covered head to toe in tattoos.
Yes, yeah,
gang tattoos, death tattoos.
Absolutely, it's that gives us that hint that he has been in a Siberian jail.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So those tattoos are, when you're a gang member in a Russian jail, especially Siberian, a gulag. In gulags, you do everything to try and survive. So all of those tattoos are actually like hieroglyphs. So they tell stories.
Oh, interesting.
The people he's killed, the people who have done him wrong, the people he's got exacted revenge upon, the people he exacts revenge for. So literally, in a strange way, if you could pause it and we could break down John Wick's body, it would have the script of the film. In a way, it would have the original John Wick origin story is written on his body.
Stay tuned for a follow-on episode where we spend an hour just discussing Keanu Reeves' naked back. I'm up for it.
Quality. Actually, that's just really funny as you just said that. It's just something I just actually remembered off the top. This script was actually, all movies are written for someone else.
Yeah.
Or someone else is in mind. But it's just, as you said, covered in tattoos. This script was actually written for a man in his 60s.
Really?
Yeah. And they actually approached Paul Newman first. So I can't,
Oh, wow.
So it would make it a completely different picture. It would almost be like Road to Perdition, type of feeling, as opposed to Keanu Reeves, who we know as this magnificent action hero, and just a tiny thing. Actually, the two boys, Chad Stahelski, maybe, and David Leitch, they directed it.
Yeah.
But they don't put down Leitch as a director because the Directors Guild said they couldn't have two names directed. They both directed it. They just put him down as a producer. But anyway, my point is they worked on The Matrix with Keanu. So they were his stunt coordinators, his stunt men, and his fight coordinators for The Matrix.
There's a couple of connecting threads between this and The Matrix.
I know I'm rambling on, but keep going, Dave.
We can come back to that. And then Vigo decides to send a hit squad to John Wick's house.
Yeah, and we have one first.
The inept bodyguard says, "How many men will I send?"
Yeah.
And Vigo goes, "How many men do you have?"
Exactly.
And then, as you were talking about earlier, like John Wick gets into his uniform, which is a black suit.
A black suit.
And we see that in every pocket of the black suit there's a weapon, there's a gun, in his sock there's knives. Yes. Under the shirt he's got like a bulletproof vest.
It's a stab vest as well.
It's a stab vest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the whole... it wouldn't be a bulletproof vest because John Wick does close arm combat all the time. Yeah. So the whole point was, if you got a gunshot that close is going to kill you anyway.
Right.
So he's actually just trying to defend against knife attacks while he's using his weapons.
Okay, so he's spec'd his combat build towards close range combat.
Totally close range combat. Yeah, very much so. But like you're getting to that, Dave, and then we have our first sequence of 12 men arriving in John Wick's house.
Yes.
Which is a brilliant place to give us our first John Wick sequence, because in a strange way, it's in that room is where the new John Wick is born.
Yeah.
So this is where he should start the revenge as well.
Yeah.
As in the same place the dog died, these men are going to die.
Yeah, and if up until this point you haven't really been paying attention, let's say you've been watching your film with the phone out, I feel like this is the first moment when you're watching it, you go, holy crap.
Yeah.
Because the fight scene in this is fantastically choreographed.
It's amazingly choreographed, Dave. And not only that, like, it's so well shot and so well edited. You constantly see the face of the protagonist who's fighting, who's shooting. They have the space absolutely mapped out perfectly. Keanu Reeves throughout this whole movie, like if you play video games or you play first-person shooters, I think Keanu Reeves has got auto-aim on.
Yeah.
Because
and some wall hacks too.
Oh no, it's unreal. Yeah, absolutely. Because the amount of headshots he's getting is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Which also adds, which is fine, which is great. It adds to that comic book effect of it that he is indestructible. I keep wanting to say superhero, but he's so anti-hero, it's not even funny. Yeah. But also, you have this again, a brilliant trope in film noir. Me and you are totally feeling for him, Dave. They've killed the dog. The wife said, I'm with this guy. Even though he's a mass murderer and maybe one of the most evil men I've ever seen on television, I feel real sympathy for him.
It's great filmmaking. We didn't start with him killing like 100 people in a gulag. We started with his dead wife and his dead dog. So we absolutely feel for him. And there's a joke on the internet. I don't know if you've ever seen Taken 2.
Yeah, I have.
But there's a joke that became famous on the internet of Liam Neeson jumping over a fence.
Yes.
And clearly, like, Liam Neeson is an old enough fella and he's like 6 foot something. I don't know how his back is.
He's a big bloke.
But that fence jumping scene has like 17 different cuts in it to hide the fact that Liam Neeson can't really jump over a fence. In filmmaking terms, John Wick is the opposite of Liam Neeson jumping over a fence. There is almost no cuts.
No, there's no cuts, Dave, because Keanu Reeves is so adept at learning massive lengths of choreography, because this is what it is. It's a dance. It's capoeira. It's Brazilian dance, basically, with kung fu and gung fu and guns and South Korean madness. That it was mostly the fight scenes were one shoulder mounted camera, so everything was in one take.
Wow.
So what you see is all in one go. Yes, there's some cutaway scenes, but they're done very well, like I say, because you always see the face of the person. And like we got back to, everyone's dressed the same, but you totally always know that that's Keanu, and you always know that that's one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
You know? But so one take for every single sequence.
It was so good.
Amazing.
It's so good.
Amazing.
Keanu's obviously a very hard-working man. I did hear that when he was making The Matrix, that apparently he was working so hard on the fight choreography and the stunts that he hurt his back in such a way as he would occasionally be paralyzed in his legs and he couldn't move them.
My God.
But because he's such a hard-working man, he didn't stop.
Yeah.
So they just redid the fights between Neo and the agents that it was mostly punches because he couldn't physically kick.
I get you.
But he just kept going.
Yeah,
like,
wow.
the man is amazing.
He is amazing, yeah. I really like Keanu Reeves, yeah. In everything. Throughout his whole career, actually, has been fantastic, yeah.
We're going to talk about the fight in greater detail after this. Welcome back to the Movie Book Club. I'm David Sheehan. I'm here with James McAuliffe on Z103. So John Wick murders 12 men incredibly efficiently. And there's another great comedic moment in this film that I really like where you hear a police siren and you see the outline of a policeman at his door and you think, oh man, how is he going to get out of this situation? And he opens the door and there's a cop there.
Yeah.
And he goes, hi, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And Jimmy goes, hi, John.
Yeah.
And John goes, noise complaint?
Yeah.
Jimmy goes, that's right, John.
Yeah.
And Jimmy looks behind John Wick to see just like a load of dead bodies. And you're like, great. Oh man, this guy is going to like, the SWAT teams are going to come in, everybody's going. And then Jimmy goes, are you working again, John?
Yeah, it's brilliant, yeah.
And John goes, no, Jimmy, just sorting some things out.
Yeah. It really is us. We're the only people that know nothing.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who John Wick is except the audience.
Yeah, I would love to know the spin-off story of Jimmy the cop.
Yeah.
Who has to work this particular beat of formerly retired assassins.
Yeah, absolutely. Poor old Jimmy. Is it one of those weeks again, John? I've got like 10 bodies that I've got to cover up and say nothing about. Yeah. And
then Jimmy just tips his hat and goes, you have a nice night, John. And John goes, thanks, Jimmy.
That is brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And that adds, though, to that whole heightened reality of this picture and like the world it exists in.
We're really at this point really getting the side like we're in a different world that is separate from our own world. Jimmy knows it, John knows it, the dead guys on the floor know it. And then John Wick calls for a dinner reservation.
Yes.
Which is he asks for a dinner reservation for 12.
Yes.
And then more people come up from this world and it's specialist cleaners who take away dead bodies.
100%.
And we get a weird cleaning montage.
We do, and it gives you that kind of, it harks back to Harvey Keitel again being the ultimate cleaner from Tarantino's film.
Yes. Mr. Wolf?
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
he's Mr. Wolf in Pulp Fiction. I drive really, really bloody fast, so you got to keep up with me. Again, cars. But we get that whole sequence, and that actor, I can't remember who he is, but he's a brilliant character actor, is the small bald guy. Turns up in lots of horrors. And
I don't know his name. I don't know his name.
I should have looked it up, but it just won't come to me. But that again is a great sequence where you have to dispose of the 12 bodies cleanly and properly and no one knows anything about it. Yeah,
and that's one of the questions that I mentioned that John Wick doesn't answer, is that when the guy is finished and John Wick pays him the gold ingots, that little bald man is one of the people asks him, will I be hearing from you again, John?
Exactly.
Implying,
again, they're all thinking, is John back working?
Yeah.
Are you back on, John? And in a strange way, you get a kind of a wry smile from all of them. They're not scared that John is back working. They're almost kind of happy that Wick, this absolute, bastion of death, is back on the scene. This kind of like, oh good, there's a bit of balance back in the world. John's working again.
I think John says to him, you take care, Charlie. Like he doesn't answer the question, don't want to know anything about it.
No, and in a way too, they don't want to know anything about it. In a way, it's almost like they're like children excited. Oh my God, John's back.
Yeah.
But they know they can't really go into it any more than that.
Yeah, they can't be too excited. So the next big change of this film is when we move to...
Actually, just a point, Dave. Sorry, I apologise.
Oh, perfect.
You said there, and that's a really interesting idea, is that John kills 12 people. He doesn't clean up even one piece of blood.
Yeah.
The one puppy's gone and John is scrubbing the whole place.
Exactly.
It just again shows you what's important to John Wick.
And you see the guys like wrapping him up in like cling film and throwing in all the guns, just everything, studiously cleaning all the windows.
Yes.
It's like these guys are almost like they feel like professional assassins, but they're like professional filth assassins.
Yes.
They clean up the filth after the professional assassins have finished. Which is it's a niche you need in this world.
Yeah, I believe so.
But then we've got a big scene change for the film. We're now done with John's apartment.
Yeah.
And we're moving to a hotel known as the Continental.
Yeah, the Continental, yeah.
Which is like the doorway into this world we've been hinted at.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Dave. In a strange way, when he walks into the Continental with the camera following him behind him with his bags up to the counter, then all of a sudden this whole movie has changed completely. Now we're in I know we're in a fictional world in a movie anyway, but we're in a truly fictional world now. This is not the real world. This is a hotel where assassins come and hang out and have their own rules. Down in Wall Street, there's actually number 1 Wall Street Court, actually, we believe, in Manhattan.
Really?
I know the building.
Oh wow.
Yeah, when I used to live there. It's a fabulous area. But so we have him walking in, so you've got a whole building full of assassins that are just saluting each other, nodding the cap, tapping the thing, having a cup of tea, going out, doing some work and coming back in again. again.
Yeah.
And again, John, like you said, Dave, and we know we're in the alternative universe because here now is where John is using the gold coins again, the bullion, to pay for everything.
Yeah, he uses a gold coin to pay for his room, and as he's walking through the lobby, there's lots of people going, "Oh, nice to see you again, John." Like, there's nobody in this world who doesn't know who John Wick is.
No, everyone knows who John Wick is. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And again, then, does it bring it back? It focuses absolutely even more attention on how idiotic Joseph was, Alfie Allen. Because he seems to be the only goddamn idiot that doesn't realise who John Wick is. And in another strange way, John Wick has given him everything he has in his life.
Yeah.
As in, he is the spoiled, lazy, bloody child he is because John Wick created the whole empire for his father.
It feels like those weird sort of generational cutoffs where like people of our age group would know like Family Ties and like Alf and shows like that. But then if you go down like 5 years, everyone's like, I haven't heard of any of these shows. Joseph is just a little bit too young to have missed the cultural phenomenon that was John Wick.
Yeah, absolutely. John Wick and Alf. Yeah, I wouldn't mind John Wick executing Alf. But go on.
Oh no, Willie. Alf had his cat. We introduced a couple of characters here. We introduced Perkins, a female assassin.
Yes.
And also Winston, the owner of the Continental.
Absolutely.
And the played by Ian McShane, you mentioned earlier.
Ian McShane, absolutely. Great actor. You know what I mean? Who used to have his own kind of detective show where he was an antique dealer detective. Yeah, so we have him turning up.
Oh,
Lovejoy, thank you very much. That's what I was looking for. Well done, Dave. Yeah. Ian McShane is another great just actor in it. Doesn't have a large part, but massive impact. You know, you get this sense of him being slightly camp though as well.
Yes. He's the only person in the film who calls him Jonathan.
Yes, that's it. Absolutely. I was just going for that. Yeah,
and he's got kind of like a cravatty.
He does have a cravatty
blouse on.
Yes, he's a little bit more out of his shell, kind of like that. He is slightly different to the whole lot of them, which he has to be really because he is the man over the whole hotel, and he kind of is the enforcer for that space. And I think he is trying in all situations to remain neutral because this conflict between Joseph and John Wick is sort of outside the bounds we think of the rules of this world. It is, yes, certainly.
And John asks him, where is Joseph? Like, give me this kid. And the question that Ian McShane asks him that he doesn't answer, technically speaking, is, have you thought this through?
Yes.
And
that's a good point.
John Wick refuses to answer for a while, but then just before he gets up and leaves the table, John Wick just says, it's personal.
Yes, exactly. And then McShane understands it. And they all understand that this man John Wick isn't a man who has hyperbole, who just says stuff for saying it. And I think the man says that's just enough. You know, he means it. If he just says two sentences, take him at his word. That is exactly what he means. He's not lying. You know, he's not exaggerating in any shape or form. But you said Adrian Perkins. Yeah, keep going.
And John then goes to the bar. He meets some other people, and the bartender gives him a drink and says compliments of the house. And John picks up the drink to drink it, but underneath the drink there's a napkin, and on the napkin are the words written, Gold Circle Club. Exactly.
And so basically Marcus has just given him where Vigo is keeping his son, which is in the club.
So now John Wick has gotten the information, but it seems like maybe in his conversation Winston didn't give him the information, so Winston's staying neutral in the whole assassin world thing.
Certainly.
And then we have another scene change to a club where some good music is playing, and I'm going to play out the episode with that tune in a bit. But we're also introduced... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just thinking of that. Like you said, Dave, and we'll probably talk about this more again tomorrow, in this club scene is in a way where we get to meet... Yes, John Wick seems to be able to defeat anyone, but then almost like a scrolling platform fighter. Every so often you meet a bad guy that's a little bit better than the other bad guys.
Yes.
Has a different technique or an extra weapon or a bottle or the big guy that throws him off the balcony.
Yes.
And that does defeat him. In a way, John Wick gets defeated multiple times in this movie. Not defeated, but almost. So it gives you that sense that every fight John Wick has could possibly be his last fight.
And that big henchman you were talking about, this also introduces us to I don't think he's named, but the actor is called Daniel Bernhardt. I will go into deep detail tomorrow about the history of Daniel Bernhardt because I find it quite fascinating, because he's almost made a career out of being beaten up by Keanu Reeves, and also stepping into B movies where more famous actors didn't want to.
I've been looking forward to that, my friend. I have lots of background as well about this movie and where it comes from and who influenced it and who it influences.
As we go to the Gold Circle Club, we see Joseph's boys, the kids, going in the front door. And we see John Wick decide to go around to the back door. And there is a very large bouncer played by, I don't know his name, but he was a wrestler back in the 90s.
He was a wrestler in the 90s.
Called Diesel.
Fact.
His name in this is Francis, and you just see John Wick pull a gun to the back of his head.
Yeah.
And goes, "Hi, Francis.
Yeah, he knows him well.
Yeah, you look like you've lost some weight." And Francis is like, "Yeah, about 10, 15 kilograms."
Yeah.
And John Wick's like, "Oh, congratulations. I think maybe you should take the night off."
Yeah.
And Francis he pops his little bodyguard earpiece out. And he goes, "Thank you very much, sir," and he leaves.
Exactly, and it's brilliant. It shows, in a strange way, from all the killer instinct, the humanity in John Wick.
Yeah.
You know, that he's just going, this guy doesn't need to die.
Yeah.
You know, this is just normal. The bouncer, I know this guy for years.
Yeah.
This is a nice dude.
In a weird way, John Wick was polite by approaching him from behind and putting a gun to the back of his head.
Yes.
It's like, look, Francis, look, I've already won. Would you like to just leave? And Francis like, you know what, man, I will. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's really good. I love that, Dave. Yeah. That's a nice positive note to finish on. Yeah, what
and then we have more beautiful action where John Wick just like slowly, methodically, and importantly, quietly kills his way through the Gold Circle Club. He kills people in bathrooms. He kills people in saunas.
And everything about John's fighting, he's a little bit better than everyone else.
Yeah.
There's a guy's toe sticking out. John shoots him in the toe.
Yeah.
Like I said to you earlier, everything is one shot to the head. Everything's auto aim. It's all dancing, moving. You know, he is almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the last Starfighter where he's pressed the button, like for the ultimate shooting. You just can't stop this man moving through the club, and that you believe, yes, he will get to his destination by the end. But then, like we said, he does meet an extra good bad guy.
Yeah.
A henchman.
It is important that he's not perfect. He's very, very good, but he's not perfect.
No.
Because there's a moment where he's looking through a big glass partition and he sees Yosef in the pool with his boys.
Yeah.
And he's so overcome with emotion that he's about to kill this guy. He doesn't notice a guy walk in on him and go to pull his gun.
Yes.
And that's the moment where the quiet stealth section goes away.
Yeah.
And it's all just shooting.
Yeah. Close hand-to-hand combat.
hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
And there's an important moment where the guy who saw John Wick has him pinned to the floor, and John Wick is pointing his gun across the pool at Yosef, and they lock eyes, they lock eyes for like 4 seconds.
Yes.
And while looking at him, John Wick points his gun down and shoots the henchman, not Yosef, going, "I'm not going to kill you from this range.
Exactly.
I'm going to kill you for closer."
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, it's brilliant.
In a way, that was a mistake on John's half.
John's part, but it'll show you how much revenge had taken over him completely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That in a way, that's an excellent point you make, Dave, because you think he's clear thinking, but in a way that shows you that he's clouded thinking.
Yeah.
You know, that he's completely absorbed by rage.
He's not getting the job done in the most efficient way.
Yeah.
It's personal.
Yes, it's personal. It's fact. Yeah.
It's personal. And there's an interesting thing, as you mentioned, with the bigger bad guys. Jumping out of the pool comes a giant, muscly, like 8-pack chest man.
Yes.
Who John cannot hurt by punching him.
Yes.
So he very quickly, almost takes 2 seconds, stamps on his toe with his boot because the guy doesn't have shoes on.
Exactly. It's
shoots him 4 times in the chest and once in the head. That guy's over with.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's there's no defeating his gunplay.
And then we move to the dance floor, and we're going to leave you now. We're going to resume John Wick tomorrow with John Wick Part 2. So if you've got time, watch John Wick and also watch the film Shazam. But yeah, here is the music from the dance floor scene where John Wick is shooting a lot of people while they are dancing. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, James.
No problem, bud.